Let me guess, you're ready to start offering digital products, but you're afraid that they might get overlooked or possibly even ignored by your audience. So what do? In this episode, you're going to learn 3 tips that will make it impossible for your audience to say no. Hey, I'm Liz Stapleton, host of the Blogger Breakthrough Summit, and welcome to the Blogger Breakthrough Summit podcast, where I share some of the incredible tips and tricks that were shared by our amazing speakers during our most recent summit. In today's episode, you're going to be learning from blogger and designer Kim George. Let's get to it.
And I put here at the bottom to create a product that solves one specific problem. When I first started creating products, I'm not gonna lie, I just used to just put anything out there and just hope that it's, that it's stuck, right? But I've learned over the years that it's better to be way more specific than just general with the products that you create, and way more targeted, right? It just really works better. So here's an example that I'm using as an example for a wedding planner. So if maybe you're a coach and you have customers that you help with planning their wedding, instead of just creating a wedding planner for any type of bride, what you can do is you can create a wedding planner for a bride that is having a backyard wedding. So that is way more specific and drilled down than just any old wedding planner. So if you were marketing this wedding planner for brides planning a backyard wedding, I'm sure that would really ring and speak to that specific audience versus just any old wedding planner. Now, I'm not saying that any old wedding planner would not work, but again, I just found that specificity sells. So if you can get more specific, that tends to work out a lot better, because if you're targeting everybody, you guys have probably heard this, you're targeting no one. So that's just an example of what I mean by just trying to get as specific as you can, or solving one problem for one type of person. Okay, so step number 2 is to create compelling titles for your digital products. Oh my gosh, guys, as bloggers, one of the things that we've probably heard, and you've probably heard, and I'm sure you're nodding your head to this, right, is when you're creating a blog post, what is one of the first things that they tell you to work on? It is going to be your blog post titles. Yes, your blog post titles. So just as your blog post titles are important, the same goes for your digital products. You definitely want to create a product that is going to hook the intended audience that you are trying to connect with. You definitely want to focus on that. So here again, using the wedding planner as an example, instead of just doing something like the ultimate wedding planner, which there's nothing wrong with that, you could do something like the ultimate wedding planner or the ultimate backyard wedding planner, how to plan a stunning wedding on a $500 budget. That is a great title. That is something that I would just look at and say, wow, this is very interesting. If I were a bride who I knew had a limited budget and I wanted to plan a backyard wedding on a $500 budget, which I don't even know if that's even possible, but if I were planning a backyard wedding, this is a book that I would definitely be way more interested in buying, because it's so targeted, it's so specific, and the title really speaks and resonates with me. Okay, so it's just an example of something that I wanted to share. And this slide kind of just goes into that. So again, the ultimate backyard wedding planner, how to plan a stunning wedding budget on a wedding on a $500 budget, is much more specific. And I put here that this title is geared towards a specific type of wedding, which is backyard weddings. It focuses on one type of bride, which is a bride that's interested in having a wedding in a backyard, and then it caters to brides that are, maybe planning a wedding on a smaller budget. So again, specificity and having a great title is definitely super important. Okay, step number 3 is to, where you can, use power words in your product titles. Yes, power words in your product titles. So power words to me are basically words that you can use that can take your product titles from, ho hum and okay to oh my gosh, I have to have this. Like, wow, I can't wait to find out more about what this is. So some examples of that would include hot. Instead of using hot, like I used here, which is fine, you could use blazing. Instead of using pretty, you could use stunning. Instead of using beautiful, you can use appealing or visually appealing. Instead of using great, you could use sensational. Or instead of using awesome, you can use spectacular, so on and so forth. So these are just a few examples of different power words that you can use to play up the titles of your books. And it really does work. I mean, it makes a huge difference.
Hopefully this episode has helped give you a better idea of what to focus on when creating your very first product. Be sure to join me next time when we take a look at the changes to Pinterest and what they mean for your business. I'll catch you then.